How's it going, everyone? I would like to welcome you to the virtual 2020 West Coast Dowsers Conference. My name is Nick Salzman, and we're going to be talking about how to clear different earthbound entities that are attached to our homes or our business or sometimes to our physical body with an approach that I call Pendulum Apometrics. All right, so with pendulum apometrics, it comes off of the study of what we would call apometry. Apometry was developed by a man named Jose Lacerda in the Garden Home in Porto Alegre, Brazil. What the Garden Home was a hospital that was for people with mental illnesses such as schizophrenia, dissociative identity disorders, and even the doppelganger phenomena was also witnessed while working in this place. So, over 30 years of working with these patients, he developed a process to help alleviate people from these different voices and different energies that they would experience attached to them in their waking life. So, it's a great study, and it was really revolutionizing for me to come across it. I already was into the pendulum, and so for me, the laws and structure of apometry, I've been able to mix with the pendulum and to give another approach to essentially spirit release therapy. So, what is it? So, apometry is done by unfolding the bodies into three specific areas. The reason why it's unfolded is so that way we can treat each area specifically to what needs to be done. So, the first layer or the first body would essentially be the astral and the emotional body make up one layer. The lower and upper mental or the superior mental would make up the second layer, and then the third being the Buddhic body, which is also associated with our Christic body or with our celestial body. It's our soul is what it is. So because we have these different layers, we are multidimensional. And being multidimensional beings, we are capable of being able to reach and touch different energies that are out there, okay, because of our connection. Beings that we live in many different lifetimes, we can suffer from our actions of emotional and physical pain from many lifetimes ago. They get stored in a memory, and it kind of creates who we are as a soul. And these are the different things that we have to overcome through these different incarnations that we align with to be better, essentially, on our soul's path. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is psychic capture. This is going to be essential in the understanding of using apometry. So with psychic capture, we're creating a field of force, and we create a protective bubble around the energy. And this energy, what we do is it's a pulse when we do the actual work. For me, it's a count. And it's almost kind of like listening to a shamanic drum. It kind of helps put me in a trance, and it's easier for me to just focus on the command at hand. So with apometry, it's done with pulses and counting out 1, 2, 3. And as we hear the count, we also want to visualize almost like a flash, like if someone was taking a photograph from the side of you and you could see the flash every time you count 1, 2. Okay, the flash is with it. There's a third component that goes with it. Now, this is where we get to tie in our physical body. When we count, we imagine the flash and we snap our finger. 1, 2. Okay, adding the snap, it now creates sound from the physical body. This gives us another layer on top of what we're doing. The reason why we do this is because it's really good at breaking apart energy, and it's also good at materializing energy that we're going to need to help these spirits that are trapped. Okay, so the psychic capture with creating a field of force, when we're dealing with an energy in a home that is maybe a nuisance or it's scary, or we just know that there's something off about this energy, you can call it demonic, you can call it whatever you want. What we would want to do is we would want to create a field of force around this energy. We create this bubble, this bubble of electromagnetic energy that goes around them, and they can't escape. They can't deflect the energy that you're sending your way or sending your way to them, and they essentially can't escape. So the reason why we put them in this sometimes is for our protection, but it's also for their protection too, because then we can work on them a little bit more individually. Okay. Only times that we don't really worry about doing a field of force, sometimes maybe it's just a nice sweet little grandma or someone that passed away in the home, and they're not really mean or any of that kind of stuff. They just need a little guidance. So it's not always needed to create a field of force. But most of the time when dealing with energies that are alarming people, it's very necessary. So use your pendulum, ask if you should. That's a quick way to find out whether or not this thing is harmful or whatnot, okay? So when they're inside this bubble, we can transport them to different timelines. Sometimes they don't know that they're dead, or they don't really understand why they're in this position. When they die, they start remembering less and less. It's almost like they kind of forget. So what happens is we can help put them in this bubble and send them to the timeline that generated their current difficulty. And when they perceive the thing that they did or the thing that they've experienced or whatever the case is we can help bring about enlightenment to them. And then once they understand that we're there to really help them and to get them to understand, they're very easy to work with and they're willing to listen to you. Okay. Another one that we can use it for, if we have an energy, let's say they live kind of a rough life, they mistreated people, and they were also very church-going folk. And so they definitely believed in a heaven for those that were good and hell for those that were not good. It's seen as kind of like a sense of punishment. What I would have them do is have them understand that whatever they did in their lifetime, they're not going to be judged for, they're not going to be hurt for. None of that's true. So what we can do is we can keep them in that field of force, and we can take them to the Christic planes, take them to heaven, take them to source, whatever you want to call it. Okay, the intention means more than the actual wording. So as long as you know that you're trying to show them where they're connected to the divine, that's where we want to send them. Okay, so after they go and they see that and they experience things and they see what really waits for them, we then bring them back to the present moment. And then from there, they're much more willing to negotiate with us. Okay. So inside this field of force, we have the ability to manipulate the energy of anything that's in there, okay? Not just with earthbound entities, this will be helpful for, but also when you start dealing with what's called astral fragments and dealing with different kinds of cancers and tumors, we can basically tap into those on an energetic level, and the vibration from whatever fragment or whatever stagnant energy that's there, that's creating these tumors, that's creating these cancers, we can essentially put it inside this field of force and change the molecular makeup of it and help stimulate more healing within the people. Okay, so creating a field of force, psychic capture, was originally developed by a man named J.S. Gogino, who was also associated with Dr. Lacerda. He was kind of like the predecessor to Dr. Lacerda. So he developed psychic capture. He also developed another technique we're going to talk about here in a little bit called multiple unfoldment, which is going to be another important part of what we're doing. All right, let's talk about our spirit doctors, spirit guides, and guardian angels. Who are they? Why are they here? And what can we do with them? So they're definitely here to assist us. They're here to guide us, and they're there to help us along the way. Most of the time when we are dealing with the disincarnated that can come off like demonic or can come off really kind of like a strong negative entity, these are the ones that we want to call upon assistance for, okay? Whether you have a guardian angel or a guide, that's fine. Totally call on them. If there is someone where you say, hey, is there a spirit doctor that you can send me that'll help me with this? Absolutely, that can happen too. Okay, all that really matters is that we get someone that's on this higher vibration that can also assist them. You know, I find when I help some of these people online, some of you have seen me on like Facebook, you know, in these different chats, talking with people, trying to help them with what's going on in their home. Usually, instead of having to call upon an archangel or someone this and that, it's pretty simple for me to just call upon a family guide member, someone that's in their family, someone that they know, someone that they trust, and someone that's going to help aid and assist them to get to where they need to go. So if we can just call upon a family guide, most of the time it does the trick. But it doesn't hurt to start understanding the connection between you and the spirit doctors that are side by side with us, ready to do the work with us, okay? So they're really helpful in clearing the negative entities. Basically, negative entities are on kind of a lower vibration. Spirit doctors and guardian angels are on a higher vibration. When we heal the negative entities, we raise their vibration and help bring them up to the same level that our assistance is there. From there, our assistants can step in and help us out. It's also really good at removing the energy of tumors and cancers, as we were talking about, because we raise the vibration and they can help us remove that stuff from our energy body. So really helpful to know that they exist and how it all ties into what we do. Okay, so let's talk about decay of the astral body and the formation of demonic entities. This is always a hot topic, and a lot of people are really passionate about, what demons are and how they're soulless and they've never been born. And everybody seems to know a lot about demons. In reality, there isn't a lot of accurate information that's out there about them. Okay. So my understanding doesn't just come from books. My understanding comes from the hundreds, if not thousands, of cases that I've dealt with, and I see the similarities and I see how this goes, and I find my own truths. I'm going to present to you what I believe, but in the end of the day, I want you to be able to do your own research and come to your own conclusions, because if you can make your belief system stronger, it's going to make everything you do stronger. Okay. So let's talk about decay of the astral body. So when certain entities pass away, sometimes when they pass away, they're really angry, or they feel that they don't want to go to the light because of punishment. Maybe they died a really traumatic death and they're still really holding on to the pain. What happens is they hold on to this memory. And so I always use the example of someone that died in a fire, someone that was burned to death. When they die, they oftentimes are in a very enraged emotional state. They need a lot of help. They're in a lot of pain. And they see people and they feel very much alive because they feel the pain. And they see these people and they're trying to reach out to people, get them to help. And we don't perceive them, we don't see them. And it makes them very angry because they just really need a lot of help. Okay. So when they carry around this pain, it's a way for us to understand that we can actually heal them and take away their pain. But they carry this stuff. And let's say they were a bad person, they hurt a lot of people, they are now deceased, and they go around and they terrorize more people. They vampirize, and they're not good energies, and they stay this way, and they stay outside of the wheel of reincarnation for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. When this happens, the astral body will decay, and it will make it even worse than how it was before. Sometimes we see these weird demonic entities that can have almost like animal-like appearances, right? The reason why this is because the lower astral realms are still connected to the earth. The earth has a very intense magnetic field. That magnetic field also produces a different animal life, and these energies being attached to the lower astral do not escape the earth's intense gravity. And so it changes their appearance. It deforms them. Sometimes they can take on animalistic looks, like having horns, tails, claws, wings, whatever. The possibilities are pretty much endless. And so when this happens, let's say they stay out of the wheel of reincarnation and that astral body decays, and gets worse. It can actually get to the point where the astral body fully decays and disappears into what's left is an ovoid personality. And what ovoid personality is there's still mental body left. But the mental body that's left, it's basically all of the negative characteristics and habits and mindsets that a certain person carried with them. They stayed outside the wheel of reincarnation for a certain long time. Their astral body no longer exists. All they have left is mental body. It almost, if you were a medium or you were clairvoyant, you would almost kind of see this as like a ball with like a face on it. It's like a person, but with no body. It's just a ball. And so what happens is you can have a stronger dark entity come by and find this stuff, and they can put them together. And they can put them together and they can place them on people. There's a saying, or not a saying, but there's an understanding about this type of energy that's called an egregore. I suggest you guys look it up and read up for it. But basically, it's a psychic kind of entity that's made up of a bunch of different ones. And so I call them a collective. If you guys ever see my book that has my charts, it'll just be called Lost Souls or Collective. Basically, it's more than one, and we can affect them all at the same time and still heal them. But it's definitely something that can happen if they stay outside of the wheel of reincarnation for a very long time. All right, here's going to be a real good one to talk about. It's depolarization of the negative mental stimuli. This is very important to understand. This will be helpful on human energies and non-human energies as well. Okay, so what is negative mental stimuli? Basically, it's the memories of pain, anguish, different kind of traumas, frustration, and it's all kept in what we could just call the bank of memories. Some people will call it the block of ego or the consciousness block. For right now, we can just call it the bank of memories to help paint that picture, okay? These pains that it holds on to, it's not just from this lifetime, but it can also be from previous lifetimes. A lot of times, negative mental stimuli that I work on either comes from a previous lifetime or it comes from childhood. That's why we have a photo right here of the kid holding her ears, because I know a lot of that stuff people hold on to and they grow up, and it's definitely something that we have to kind of work through, some of those old layers that no longer serve us. Okay, and in this bank of memory, we also know that the traumas can of death can be held in a memory, and it's almost like an emotion. And emotion is definitely something that's really close to mental stimuli. I think it's a little bit different, so we'll talk about it differently. But emotion can turn very toxic with mental stimuli attached to this kind of stuff, and they mix, and it can take emotional energy and just really make it a toxic kind of vibration that people will have in their physical bodies, causing a lot of different problems. Okay. One of the other things that we have to work on is basically neutralizing what I call self-induced parasitic mental currents, and for lack of a better term, self-sabotaging behavior. Stuff where people say they kind of get anxiety, right? And so they kind of have a hard time breathing, their chest rate goes, and then they start thinking about how they don't like that they get anxiety, and they don't like themselves for dealing with this kind of stuff, and then it feeds that anxiety, and it's just a loop of constant anguish, I guess you could say. So what we do is we work on neutralizing some of those negative mental currents that are just really self-induced, that kind of help bring a person's energy down. So we neutralize them and help implement different thoughts and positive feelings that we can to try and reinforce the energy work that we're doing to help people out. One of the other things, mental stimuli, would definitely be the religious dogmas that people are holding on to from, certain religious beliefs from the different lifetimes that they have. I know there's many people that very much believe in the heaven and hell concept, and this is through the ages. And so maybe not even just nowadays, but in previous lifetimes, and people still being around for them. I mean, if you're dealing with anybody, from Salem witch trials or this and that, it's very important that they be in touch with God. And so some people can be really, really afraid of being something that would be punished after a lifetime. So it's really important that we help counsel them and get them to understand that that's not true. Negative mental stimuli is really important when we understand how non-human entities are made. Okay, I know when you hear about a non-human demon or something, it sounds kind of terrifying, and it sounds kind of crazy to some people that don't know. But if you really knew what they were made of, something that doesn't have a soul matrix, it's made out of negative mental stimuli. There's so many people on the planet that are mediums, that are clairvoyant, that are extremely good at projecting energy, and they have no idea that they're doing this. And what happens is, out of the negative desires of men and women, whether it be jealousy, wanting to see somebody get hurt or killed, wanting to see somebody get punished, just overall that kind of a look where you just wanted to see bad stuff happen, we can project that kind of stuff, and we can create these different kind of entities that are made out of only mental energy. And so because they're mental energy, we can wrap them, okay, in a field of force, and we can start depolarizing the negative mental stimuli, which is what they're created out of it, essentially. And then we neutralize all the toxic emotional trauma that's stored there. And then from there, they're ready to get moved out. And because it's a non-human energy, I have to tell you, because it's a non-human energy, we can't just send it to its higher self. We can't send it to the Christic planes. It doesn't have a soul matrix. That's not where it goes. But where it goes would be the universal mind. We can call it universal mind. Basically, it's a reservoir of mental energy. Everything we've ever built in this lifetime has all come from a thought. Everything that we have wanted to create has come from a thought. So what we have is this vast ocean of mental energy that we can pull from to help stimulate ideas and help bring ideas into fruition, okay? And so not just things that we can build, but we can also send stuff mentally and create things out of our own projections. So it's just kind of a little background of how you can deal with a non-human entity versus an actual human entity. Okay, so let's talk about what makes a human entity. Okay, we talked about it before, about us having a soul. I like to call it the Christ spark. This is a piece of the divine that sits in the middle of the chest. Some clairvoyants could see it as a center of light in the center of an entity that they can see it. But what connects us is this piece of the divine. These deceased entities that are human, they still have that piece. I have that piece. You have that piece. And so because of that, we are all connected, okay? We are all connected as a part of the divine. I call it the Christ spark because that's just what makes it easier for me to to describe it to you. Okay, so when we talk about certain demonic entities, really just being devolved humans, ones that vampirize other people, lived a rough life, do not want to transition because they know they're going to get punished or whatever the case is. And so they remain, or they don't know how to get out of their situation. They stay where they're at. They are a demonic entity. So this is something that we can absolutely help them with. I don't know if we have any fans of like Disney movies that are out there. There's a movie called Moana, and Moana I think is just an amazing correlation with how this all works. Okay, so I'll have to spoil the movie a little bit for you and tell you about the end. Okay, so there's two main deities that are in this movie. Okay, so you have Nefertiti. Nefertiti's the earth goddess. She's the one that makes everything grow. She brings life to everything. Okay, and then you have Tikal. Tikal is this thing that's made out of like volcanic ash that throws lava at people, and it screams and it yells and it's super scary, and like it warns everybody away. Okay, so the main character Moana, she carries this gem on her necklace. It's a green gem, and what they call it is the heart of Nefertiti. And so her whole mission is trying to get this heart back to where it goes, back to Nefertiti. Okay, and at the end of the movie, they get to the point where she's face to face with Tikal, this big, scary demon, essentially. And she says, "It's okay, bring her to me. I know who you are." And they get face to face, and there's no attack. And then she takes that stone and she puts it in the middle of the chest. And then this demonic entity flourishes and then becomes Nefertiti. Okay, so moral of the story is Nefertiti and Tikal are the same thing. One just got injured or hurt and needed to be healed to be brought back to its divinity. So I wanted to paint that picture for you to get you to understand how this works. Okay, so even if they're super scary and they're demonic and people can tell you all the terrible things that they've done in the house, look for that Christ spark. We can help them. We can bring them out of that situation. We can absolutely cure all their pain and get them delivered. Okay, what we do is we offer salvation, and that's how we do it, is through the Christ spark. Okay, so when they have these different traumas from different lifetimes, what I usually say is cure all astral lesions. Okay, all astral lesions means all the injuries that are in their astral body that they've accumulated from all lifetimes or in between lifetimes. Okay, you can say take away all their pain, heal all their injuries. Once again, I'm kind of a literal person, so my terminology is very literal and very specific. So you can use your language, whatever works for you, as long as the intention is there to take away their pain and cure all their lesions, I guess you could say. And with the Christ spark, oftentimes we can also nourish them through this. Okay, we can deal with certain entities that really passed away. They're hungry, they're thirsty, and they can't eat and they can't drink, and they're really hungry and they're thirsty. So as a really good gesture, we can heal them through the Christ spark. We can ask to send nourishing, unconditional love energy to make them full, content, and complete once again. I tell you, if you're dealing with a nasty demonic entity, you put them in a bubble, you take away their pain, you heal all their injuries, you take away the sting out of all of the harsh lifetimes that they lived and the pain and stuff that they suffered. You take that away from them, and then you feed them and you make them feel content, happy, and just calm once again. They're pretty easy to deal with. So we have to just know how to take out the sting and take out their bark, so then that way it's a lot easier to just get them to move on, because they'll be in a state where they feel they've been heard, helped, and they'll be ready to go. All right, so I want to talk to you guys about unfoldment and multiple unfoldment. This is going to be something that is going to be a new concept for a lot of people, and it's essential in the study of apometry with unfolding the bodies. Okay, it wasn't until I started running into these different entities where someone would say, "Hey, I got something in my house. Can you clear it?" And I'd say, "Sure, I'll take a look." And then I would do my work, and I think I clear it, and then the very next night it would come back, and so I started thinking it was an attachment, and then I started thinking that there was more than one. So I came across this process from the fellow J. Escogino that I spoke about earlier. He developed this treatment. I found it in a book called Spirit and Matter by Dr. Lacerda. If you can find a copy of it, it has tons of knowledge and is really savvy on this whole subject. But I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about how it works, okay? So essentially, entities can have entities attached to them at the time of death. If you think of it, if we have someone that has, a disincarnated energy that's attached to them at the time of death, they don't separate. Their energy bodies already had almost like a symbiosis. Okay, they almost fed off of each other because of the vibration was so similar. So when they die, they're also still together. Okay, this is something that you're going to also see with hereditary family illnesses and also suicides. To be honest with you, most of the time we get these people that kill themselves, and then they still feel very, very alive, and that they walk around and they hurt, but they still feel alive. And then sometimes they unknowingly attach to people, and they really think they're alive, and that they didn't successfully kill themselves, I guess you could say. And then they do the attempt again on someone else that we would normally not believe would be doing that kind of stuff. So what we have to do in order to get rid of these entities that can have layers on them, okay, I want you to understand it's kind of like a babushka doll. I don't know if you've ever seen one. The little Russian dolls, you can open them up, and there's another one. You open them up, and there's another one. We're going to peel this through and back layer by layer like an onion, and we're going to get to the seed. And once we get to the seed, then we can clear all of it, okay? So let's say we have an entity, and we take away their pain. We get them fed, we take away all of their traumas, and now they're in a state where they're ready to cross. What we ask them is we say, okay, can you tell me, is there anybody else there with you that's angry or upset that I'm talking to you? And if you get a yes, that means there's another entity there. If you get a no, that means they're clear, they're the only ones, and they're good to go, okay? So let's say that there is another one. What we have to do is we have to create a second field of force, or you can ask to unfold the energy of the entity that you're looking at. Either one of those seems to work just fine. For me, I usually just say create a second field of force or create a third field of force. Then that way I can kind of remember the sequence of this. And for someone that's just hearing this, I would highly recommend that you take notes. Take notes where you say, okay, I'm working on this one entity and I had to unfold them, and okay, and then here is this one. Once you can start structuring that in your mind and seeing how you can come back to all that and keep a record in your mind of how many times you've unfolded, it gets easier to grasp the concept. Until then, don't be afraid to take some notes and help just make it easier for you to remember, okay? So let's say the entity says that there's one next to them, okay? We're going to create that field of force. Then we're going to ask for permission to connect to the higher self of that entity. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about why we do that, but I'm just letting you know, when we start working on a second entity that's unfolded, we have to ask for permission through their higher self to create the healing, okay, and to make sure that we can get that one out of the way. Then we can go on down the line and clear everything else up, okay? So entities can have entities when they pass away and create more layers to some sort of an entity, okay? Let's talk about inverting the polarity of the astral body. This is going to be a very important one when dealing with astral fragments or dealing with spirits that are attached to the human aura. Okay, so the astral body has electrons, and it carries a polarity. Now, our emotions can absolutely affect that polarity. If it's full of love and gratitude, it vibrates at a very, very high state, and it's good at deflecting stuff. If we have a polarity of something that's really weighing us down, kind of negative thinking, or maybe traumas, or just different issues unresolved that we're holding on in our areas, right? We hold on to that. It makes us lower our vibration, and it makes us more susceptible to things sticking to it that have this similar vibration. Okay, so what these electrons are in the astral body, they're together. So when we invert the polarity, we make it separate. Okay, so the separation is what's going to help us remove astral fragments. It's going to help us remove different entity attachments. I know a lot of people talk about psychic hooks and strings and all this and kind of that. You can ask to invert the polarity of this stuff and dissolve all those strings with unconditional love if you wish, but inverting the polarity is going to be really helpful when you do this stuff, okay? Also, when we were talking about entities being stuck to each other, this is how we can help separate them. We can ask to invert the polarity of entity number 2 from entity number 1 and detach them from each other, okay? We can totally do that. It just comes down to which process feels good to you, what you can visualize the strongest, and what you can feel natural and good about doing this with, okay? So it really kind of comes down to what you want to do. And so what we talked about earlier is the emotions and thoughts can also be polarized, and they can attract other entities of a similar vibration. Let me try and move this photo real quick. Okay, there we go. All right. So what I mean by that is essentially like attracts like in the spirit world. If we were to hold two sides of a battery together, you try and put two negatives or two positives to the side, you can feel that resistance between the two, and they won't touch. They'll repel each other. Okay. So in the world of spirit, like attracts like, negative attracts negative, positive attracts positive. That's just the way it works. Okay. So if you're someone that is really, really depressed, and let's say you have really low self-esteem, okay, you're probably going to attract the spirit of something that is also extremely depressed and lost and lonely. Okay. If you're someone that really thinks negatively about yourself, you look at yourself in the mirror and you call yourself ugly or stupid or dumb or just anything like that, you're likely going to attract an entity that's also not going to like you, and that's going to make you feel this way as well. On the extreme side of things, if you're someone that has suicidal thoughts or feelings, and you kind of revolve around that thought process a little bit, you're probably going to attract an entity that has committed suicide before. So this is the way it works. People could think this is a bad thing for obvious reasons, but really what it comes down to is these entities that show up in our lives, they are a mirror to our inner conflicts. And so if you have an entity of someone that killed themselves, or let's say you moved into a house and someone actually killed himself inside the house, and you're like, whoa, that's really weird, because I always seem to have this tendency when we move someplace that has to do with something that I'm going through or someone close to me is going through. So when we get presented with a situation, we can look at it at face value. Oh, it's an entity. Let's get rid of it. Or we can look at it at a deeper level and see, what is this entity going through that correlates with what I'm going through. If we can see that this entity is very angry, it's very sad, it's very jealous, or whatever the case is, these kind of negative emotions and thoughts are probably also running rampant inside somebody else, if not everybody that's in the home. So they're a great teacher if we know what we're looking for. Okay. All right. So when we facilitate healing through the higher self, understand that all souls have that thing that we call free will. Okay. Free will gives us the ability to do what we want when we want to do it, typically. When spirits that reside outside of the wheel of reincarnation for thousands of years, they still have this free will. They can do this all they want. They can vampirize other people. That's their free will. Only thing is, just because it's free will doesn't mean they are not outside the laws of spirit. And to put it simple, it's cause and effect. You are doing things that are holding you back. You're going to have to come back and repeat the process again to try and get it right. The good news is, we get this ability to repeat our mistakes, and it could only be by something that's divine, something that's loving, and in the end has our back and knows a process that can help get us back to our divinity and get us back to our highest state of being. Okay. So total healing on entities happens when the healing is allowed by the person's higher self. Okay. So this is what makes it very important when we're dealing with an entity. When we actually communicate with them, when we're using the pendulum, if you want to do the yes or no questions, or you're getting ratings based on the different statements that you're using, what it comes down to is you're facilitating communication through the higher self. You have your higher self way up here, they have theirs up here, and they communicate with each other, and the healing will facilitate down. That's why with the photo, you can see the bright light above coming down into the body. So that's kind of the way it works. We get healing in the entity through the higher self, okay? So if we have permission through their higher self to heal them, then we should be able to. So just remember, every time we connect with an energy, make sure if it's human, we're going to connect through the higher self. If it is a non-human entity, then it would just be something we place in a field of forces and start working on depolarizing the negative mental stimuli and neutralizing the toxic emotional trauma and getting them back to the universal mind. Okay, so different process, but human energies that have a Christ spark, they got a higher self. So we can connect through the higher self, get permission through it, and we can make it go away. Okay, so that's how it goes. So why do we heal and treat? The disincarnated, who would be someone that would want to do something like this? And to be honest, I think it would be anybody that is interested in any of the paranormal. Sometimes it's the shows they watch or the different Facebook groups you can be a part of, the different readings and stuff that are out there. The phenomena itself is very entertaining for a lot of people. So whether you're there to document it with a videotape or you want to get a cool EVP, just understand that because we're a physical person, we have a physical body, what we bring to the table is something much stronger than anything you can ever come across on this planet. We have a three-dimensional body. We have a very intense electromagnetic field. We have a foot in more than one world. We are extremely capable of causing change and creating change with the disincarnated and their essentially their state of being. So entities are typically, they get stuck in pain, right? They need our help. Sometimes they can say, oh, it's a demon, get it out of here. Let's sage the house and get it out. I mean, I get it. It's obvious reasons. But imagine if you were like a woman that went into the emergency room and you had your kids in your arms, and let's say that kid was bleeding to death, and you wanted someone to help your kid. You're screaming, you're crying, you're yelling at people, and everyone around you is just ignoring you and walking by you like they don't see you. It's not going to be very long until you start clawing at them, grabbing them by the throat, and trying to get them to hear you because your kid's bleeding to death and then needs help. Okay, so understand at that point, that mother is in an emotional state where all she can see is what's in front of her. That emotional state is what guides every one of her actions. Okay, is she a bad person? I don't think so. I think she was acting out of emotion and out of love because she wanted to have her kid helped, and by pretty much by any means necessary. Okay, doing what a mother would do best, and that's trying to provide for her kid. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to approach different entities like this with love and that same understanding of knowing that they really just don't know better or they can't help themselves. But you know who can? We can. Okay. So most of the time they know they're deceased. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes their death was really quick. It was in a quick car accident, or they died in their sleep, or maybe they were a cancer patient that was highly medicated on painkillers or whatever the case is, and they slip during a medically induced coma, okay, and they walk around kind of sleepwalking. They don't really know that they're dead. And it might be scary and it might be terrifying to some people to see them, but really they just need our help and they need to be enlightened to their state of being, okay? So when we help enlighten them, we are essentially counseling them, and that's really what we're there for, okay? And I'll give you guys a little tip that can help. Sometimes I'm dealing with energies that don't know that they're dead. And so just to kind of understand how the questioning going is, we want to be able to direct that conversation, right? We want to be able to essentially direct how the conversation is going to go. It's like a good car salesman. They're going to ask you questions, but they really want to ask you questions to tell you what they need to say. So what we're going to do is we're going to formulate how this goes. And so I would just ask the energy, is there, and this is after we connect to the higher self, and I would ask them, I would say, are you, experiencing, some weirdness or awkwardness right now that you can't really explain? Sure. How about, do you talk to people and they don't hear you? That's an easy one. How about, do you touch people and they don't feel you? That's an easy one. Then I say, okay, can you do me a favor? I want you to look down and I want you to tell me, do you have any feet? Do you see any feet underneath you? And at that moment, when they look down and they see they don't have any feet underneath them, that is a very enlightening moment that you can provide for them. Because now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, their whole world changes and they go, wait, hold on, what are you talking about? And now they get very interested because now all of a sudden you're helping them understanding that they are in a different situation. Now, if you're dealing with the disincarnated, and they do say that they see the feet underneath them, it's because they're attached to a physical body. And if that happens, just let them know, I want you to see this real quick. You guys are connected by a cord. This cord is a silver cord for any clairvoyants that have seen it before, and it taps into what you would call the back of the neck of the entity. Okay, it's in the nape region, just below the hairline. And you say, okay, tell me, can you feel this? And you snap your finger using that pulse, that visualization that we were talking about. And all we're going to do is just yank on it and give it a little tug with the snap of that finger, okay? And when they feel that and ask them, did you feel that sensation? They're going to say, what was that? That is their connection, okay? So this is another way that we can help bring about enlightenment. Once again, some of you probably have different processes that can help. Here's just a few tools. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, use something else. That's fine too. Okay, so when we heal and treat the disincarnated, we want to get them out of people's houses. Sometimes people don't have a problem with, grandma's spirit being at home. She was a sweet lady and I love her and she was great. She would never hurt anybody. Grandma's always welcome here and can stay. That's fantastic. But let's say grandma died of leukemia. Grandma died of cancer. Okay, she's very loving. We miss her. We grieve for her. Everyone cries. They miss her. What's grandma going to want to do? Say, hey, I'm still here. Look, and she'll come up and try and give us a hug, right? She's going to want to try and comfort us, right? But what happens, since we have a physical body and an intense magnetic field about us, they come up and hug us, and all of a sudden they get stuck. Now they can't be removed. Now they're stuck because of a similar vibration. Grandma can only be stuck if there's something that grandma has as a trait and this family member has as a trait that's very similar, okay? This is what's going to open the concept of family hereditary illnesses, such as different cancers and brain tumors, and there's different kinds of stuff that's out there, and maybe even like heart defects and some of that kind of stuff that's out there. It really kind of places how some of this stuff can be brought down through the family lineage, okay? So we want to be able to clear grandma out of the home and get her healed and part of the light. And most of the time, they come right back and help anyways. When we help them out, they get their light body full, and now they're capable to help others. So I've seen many times where I've reached out to, a family, or a family reaches out to me, says we have something in the home, and maybe it's grandpa, and maybe grandpa was an abusive alcoholic because he was from the old school, and that's just the way it was. Grandpa still deserves redemption. Grandpa still deserves love and respect. Okay, we help out grandpa. We get him to the higher self, to the Christic planes, to heaven, whatever you want to call it. We get them there. They return. And now all of a sudden, they start getting other ones that need to be helped, other family members that need to be helped. And they grab them and they bring them to you. They are now operating at what we would call a level of service. And being at service is what we have to learn either in this life, or we're going to learn it in between now and the next one. We have to learn to be of service. And so grandpa now is doing the right thing by finding others that are lost and others that are helped, and they're bringing them to you. Because what happens is they find a system and they operate by it. If it's someone that's on the land, if you're dealing with, say, I don't know, like some like native burial grounds or something, there's some spirits that are unrest. If we can help them and we can show love and respect to them, oftentimes that gratitude is met by giving you more opportunities to help. Okay, you build that bond, you build that trust, you gain an army of light, and that's how it works. You can walk into a building by yourself. People can say, how can you do that? I would be so terrified to be by yourself. One thing's for sure, we are never alone. And if you can walk into a home and you have a dozen or more beings of light that are very strong and effective at helping you clear stuff, you're going to live a very good life, and you're going to stay out of harm's way doing the work, okay? Doing the work of the grace, work of God, whatever you want to call it. This is a beautiful opportunity for us to perfect what we're doing and how we can help people in the highest capacity. All right. So if you guys are interested, I know I got this, let me get this a little bit smaller. Here we go. If you guys are interested, I have a book that's available called Apometric Pendulum Healing. You guys can email me, nick@salzman@gmail.com. If you want to contact me about any of this stuff, it would be cool. I'm also on Instagram. You can look up Pendulum Apometrics. Facebook, we're Home and Health Energy Works. And on YouTube, just look up Nick Salzman Pendulum. All this stuff I'm pretty active on, and any of you guys can hit me up with any kind of questions. But before this video is over, what I want to do is I'm going to show you guys the protocols. And let me get this video a little bit bigger. I'm going to show you guys how to do the protocols. And let's say someone hits you up and they have something in their house that's banging and making noise, and something that they want out of their house because it's giving them or the kids nightmares, or it's making the dogs act crazy, or whatever the case is. Okay, we want to be able to help out. So with my method, most of the time what I do is going to be at a distance, which works out really well because that's what most of us are going to have to do right now with this quarantine. Someone can send me a photo, whether it be of a bathroom or a hallway or just pretty much anywhere in the house, but I really like the hallway. The hallway seems to work really well for me. Maybe a different approach works for you, but the hallway I can just really seem to gather the information that I want. Okay, so I have a pendulum that I developed specifically for this kind of work, I want to introduce you guys to a pendulum of my design. This is called the Sekhmet pendulum. Okay, this is named after the Holy Mother Sekhmet from ancient Egypt. This is the lion-headed goddess who is pretty much a goddess of war. The pharaohs would call upon her for protection, but she was also the patron saint for healing for them too. So she was very much called upon to heal the sick, not only of the living, but she was a protector of the underworld. So she was also into healing the disincarnated. Okay, so this pendulum is called the Sekhmet pendulum. If any of you guys are interested in getting one of these, send me an email and we'll get it figured out. Okay, should be available right around July-ish. So I hope you guys enjoy what I have about to show you guys. So let's say someone sends me a photo. Okay, I'm looking on my phone, or I'm looking on the computer screen, or maybe I stopped in their house and I'm just holding that image in my mind of what it looks like inside of their house because I've been there before. Okay, first of all, I would ask for permission. Well, call on your light, call on your blessing. I say, under the light of God, I ask for your protection. Please surround me, protect me, and keep me protected in the light, and allow me to repel anything that doesn't serve my highest good health and well-being. Say, universal knowledge, at this time, do we have permission to look into the energy of this house? Okay, we get our confirmation, thank you. I would then ask, universal knowledge, do we have any entities that are inside this home? Okay, we get confirmation that there is, and we say, thank you, clear. Okay, then I would ask, is it necessary to create a field of force around this entity? Okay, you get a yes, let's create that field of force. Now, I'm going to show you guys my method, my process. You don't have to do it this way, but I've explained to you about visualizing the flash, the snap, and now we're going to put it all together and you're going to see how it works, okay? And I'm going to say, universal knowledge, at this time, I ask that we create a field of force around the entity in this home. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you know you're done. For me, it goes to a north-south. You guys might go left-right, but for me, it's north-south. That's when it's bounced out, ready to go. And I say, okay, universal knowledge, do we have permission to contact the higher self of the entity that's in this home? Okay, you get a yes. Perfect. I say, okay, I ask to facilitate communication with the higher self of this entity at this time. Okay, we're ready to go. And I say, okay, hello, my name is Nick. I greet you in light and love of the Creator, and I'm here to help. I have been sent here by whoever lives in that house in order to check up on you and see if I can offer you some assistance. First of all, can you hear me at this time? Okay, and you're going to get a yes because they can hear you at this time. Now understand, just like when you see people that are schizophrenic, that have voices in their head and they can't escape them, this is exactly what we're doing to them. We are now a voice in their head and we have their attention. We have them in a field of force. They can't go anywhere. We're hashing this out right now. So I say, okay, my friend, I've been called to see if I can check on you. Can you tell me, are you in any pain or discomfort at this time? Okay, you get a yes. And you say, okay, I can help you remove your pain. Would you like for me to assist you at this time? Okay, you get a yes, and you say, all right. Universal knowledge, I ask that we cure all astral lesions in this energy. In 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we then go for the memory. And I say, universal knowledge, at this time I ask that we depolarize all negative mental stimuli stored in the bank of memory of this entity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And just for safekeeping, we're going to go ahead and say I ask to neutralize all toxic emotional trauma stored in the bank of memory. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And last but not least, I ask universal knowledge, do we have permission to nourish the Christ spark of this entity? Yes, we do. All right, we ask to send nourishing, unconditional love energy to the Christ spark of this entity, allowing them to feel full, content, and complete once again. In 1, 2, 3. Okay? All right, so now usually they're in a state of being that they're a little bit easier to deal with and usually a little bit happier. And we can say, okay, my friend, do you feel a little bit better? Okay, you get a yes. And you say, all right, would you like to join your family and friends in the light once again? Okay. And you say, all right, hold on 1 second. Let me go ahead and call upon someone that you'll recognize that will aid and assist in the transition into the light. Okay, so now is the time when we would say universal knowledge. I ask to call upon a family guide, spirit doctor, guardian angel, being of light that would like to aid and assist in the crossing to the light. 1, 2, 3. Okay, then we ask, all right, my friend, do you see anybody there that you recognize? Okay, we get a yes. And we say, all right, are they asking you to go with them? We get another yes. Okay, will you go with them? We get another yes. And we say, all right, and this is my method. You guys can do whatever you want at this point, but I'm going to show you how I finish. I'm going to say universal knowledge. I ask that we surround, protect, heal, and keep. Surround, protect, heal, and keep. Surround, protect, heal, and keep this entity in the light. We ask now that we remove him from this house and all timelines, future, past, present, parallel, known, and unknown, and ask that we merge him back with his higher self. We ask that we give him peace and tranquility for all eternity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And after you're done here, I want you guys to understand that this entity has left a vibrational imprint on the home, so it'll be good for us to work on the energy of the home real quick. I would just simply say universal knowledge. I ask that we scramble the frequency of all stagnant mental, emotional, and physical traumas stored in the building. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and we can say universal knowledge. I ask that we fill all voids with unconditional love or holy white light with Christ energy, whatever you want to call it. I ask that we fill all voids with unconditional love. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and as equal as important as it is to do the works that I just described to you, it's just as important for us to express our gratitude when we're done with this. Really what it comes down to is we are exercising our birthright right now. We are giving the opportunity to help redeem people that have been stuck in pain for a very long time. This is charity work. This isn't something that I charge people necessarily for. A lot of it's passion driven, and just understand that you have the ability to help, and you can really cause a lot of significant change in people's life while they're living and while they're deceased. I really hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope you digest some of this, because the next one that I'm going to be showing you guys will likely be about subpersonalities, multiple personalities, and disassociated consciousness. And in order to get a grasp on some of that, we're going to need to digest some of this first. So any questions you guys have, feel free to email me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I have other videos on YouTube you can check out. Check me out on Home and Health Energy Works on Facebook. Look me up, Pendulum Apometrics on Instagram. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and God bless you all. Thank you, and have a good night.